of wealth in economics. By that, what I mean is the monopoly game that exists in our society that determines who gets to be rich and who doesn't, and who gets to have financial security and who does not. Financial security is something that can be achievable for pretty much everybody. It's just some of us know the rules, some of us don't. And and as a person who's studied these rules for 30 something years, since I was 18 years old, maybe the best way I can help is to say, okay, here's some things that are going on, and here's what you kind of want to think about. And I think I spend a lot of time thinking about what's going to happen to our kids and how we can avoid trafficking our kids into slavery. Like that's how I literally look at it. It probably sounds extreme, but if you think about how much misery and pain and stress and anxiety and depression our people go through because we're not economically prepared, my thought is like, who would want to put their child in that situation? Like, who would want to drop them in a tub of hot boiling oppression and really make them go through just the pain, struggle, and stress that so many of us go through as it pertains to where we are financially. Because one of the things I explain to our youngest a lot, I talk to her all the time, and we have grown-up conversations just to get her ready for life, is I say, the difference between freedom and slavery for most people is about $5,000 a month. Literally $5,000 a month. So I said, if I can help you figure out how to make $5,000 a month, you can kind of do whatever you want. You can tell your boss to kiss your butt. You can go live your best life. You can do whatever you want to do. And if you know business and money the way I know business and money, it's not that hard to do. Like last night I was talking to our 20-year-old because I told you I'm one of these guys that loves I love being a bonus dad. Like I'm one of those guys who just says, I guess because I'm competitive about everything I do, my thought is like if I get to be the dad, I want to be dad of the year, right? I want to really have that impact so that when kids when they grow up, they're like, yeah, this person really helped me. They made me into something better than what I might have been otherwise. So I sat there with our 20-year-old who's in college now and he's ready for these conversations. So I said, a lot of people make their money off a job. And I said, I'm going to show you how I make more money than a surgeon every Monday just by selling stock options. And he was like, okay. So I said, normally I don't show you my money, but I opened up my portfolio. I showed him, I said, see how many shares of this company I have? And he said, yeah. I said, well, so let me show you. I hit a couple buttons. I said, I could sell each of these options for $1 a piece. And there's 2,500 shares of this company. How much money would I get right then in my account right now? He said, $2,500. And then I went to the next one. I said, okay, I have 3,000 shares of this company. The options sell for $1.50 a piece. What's $1.50 times 3,000? He said $4,500. I said, okay, boom. So now I've got another 4,500 in my account, and then I went down the list, and I own a lot of stock. I own hundreds and hundreds of companies, and so I was like, so yeah. So this is where money's coming from. This is not theory. This is not illusion. This is not one day. This is not an illustration. I said this is literally what I do every single Monday when I wake up, and this is how I make more money than a surgeon without even having to go to work. Now I said, what allows me to make that money? He said, well, it's not work. I said, yeah, it's not work. It's not, I don't, when you get to a point where you have wealth, you're not supposed to work for your money. Your money's supposed to work for you. I said, it's a capital base. That's what it is. It's a capital base. I have capital. I have assets, and these assets go out and make money for me, right? And that's where you want to be. And here's the beautiful part. Here's the part that I want to get to. I'm not, and you guys don't know. I mean, if you've ever seen me, if you watch me for a while, I'm not a flashy guy. I'm not a guy who goes out bragging about how much money I make or anything like. I don't like to do that. I feel like that's kind of that to me that's a sign of insecurity and weirdness and it also it just doesn't in this society people will get mad at you if they find out that you're doing well. You know what I'm talking about, right? You got a lot of people that love to see you as miserable as they are. They really have bought into this idea that if you're black and you're not suffering like me, then you ain't black enough. You ain't really black, right? And I'm like, no, I'm very black. I've been black my whole life. I've suffered, I've struggled. I know poverty as well as you do. There's no poverty story you can tell me that can trump all my poverty stories because I can talk about having no money. I can talk about getting the lights cut off. One time when I was a little kid, I hope my mama don't mind me telling this story, but one time when I was a little kid, our car got repossessed, and I saw and I was about to go to school, and there was no car, so I got on the phone and called 911. It was like, I'd like to report a missing car, please. And I didn't understand why my mother hung up the phone, right? I didn't get that. I thought I was like, somebody done took our car, right? And so these are the things that we saw. Like literally, I literally thought our car was stolen. And so, but it had been repoed. So my mom was like, "No, let me call the man. I got to go down and pay some money." Little just little stuff like that. And I got, and I don't want to live like that. And I don't want your kids living like that. I don't want my kids living like that. I don't want anybody's kids living like that. And they don't have to live like that, right? They don't have to live hand to mouth and barely getting by and all this other stuff. It all really the secret, the one thing that makes the difference is economic intelligence and also preparation, right? You can't just learn the information, you got to apply it. Right? You can't just learn it, you got to apply it. So this is one of the reasons why I challenge all of you to just do basic things. It's like we talk every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. This is why I do this every day, because I want you to get in the habit of every day waking up thinking about your money, every day waking up thinking about your money, every day waking up thinking about your money. And the reason it may seem a little strange when I do this is because I'm an extreme person. I am, and I got my extreme behavior because so two reasons. One, I learned that being black means I had to be on my toes. I had to be ready because I came of age during the 1990s, which was the era of mass incarceration. So I was watching my friends get murdered. My best friend got shot in the head in front of his daughter. His name was Greg Wilkins. He got murdered right before Thanksgiving on 1996, right after Tupac got killed. And I had just gone. I was gonna be at his house that day. I was gonna go see Greg that same day he got murdered. And that stuck with me. I never forgot him. I saw friends getting 20, 30 years in prison. I'm 52. I know guys that went to prison when I was 19 who are just getting out right now. Right. So that's very traumatic. And no one really talks about the trauma that men feel, right? Or that black men we got, and women as well, of course. But like there's a lot of trauma. Like when you're watching people next to you drop like flies, it scares the hell out of you, right? So I remember being very nervous in the 90s about like, okay, I can't make a mistake. If I get caught slipping, I'm in trouble, and so that made me extreme. And then the other thing that made me extreme was my PhD program. My PhD program was a sort of a horrible awakening that I didn't know as much as I thought I did. I mean, when I was in college, I was the stuff. I had the highest grade point average of every single black student on campus. I was taking more classes than everyone else. Everyone else was taking like 15, 18 credit hours. One semester I took 27 credit hours because I wanted to just push myself to the extreme to see what I could do. And so I got two bachelor's degrees in 4 years with a triple major. I could have got a third bachelor's degree, but I kind of messed around my senior year. So it was easy. It was like a walk in the park. And a lot of that came from mastering time management when I was 19 years old. I literally at 19, I figured out two things that changed my life. 19 years old, I figured out two things that made a difference for the rest of my life. One was I learned and I think most people have the ability to shape my own emotions and moods for that day. Like I can choose to be an optimist. I can choose to be a pessimist. I can choose to be confident. I can choose to be afraid, right? I could choose that, right? Instead of hoping that I'm in a good mood that day. No, I wake up and I say, I'm gonna be in a good mood. That means that if I'm in a bad mood or I'm having a bad day or I'm not feeling good, I queue up, I do certain things to stimulate certain parts of me that's gonna bring out the side of me that I need to bring out, right? So that means if I'm in a bad mood, I'll think about happy things. I'll be very optimistic, very positive. I'll listen to music that stimulates the mood, right? It's almost like if you want to be, if it's like, I don't know, like if you want to be romantic, right? There's music that makes you romantic. If you want to be angry, maybe there's music that makes you angry. If you want to be inspired, there's things you can watch and hear that'll inspire you. So I remember picking up on that when I was 19, and that was important for me because at that time I had mental health challenges all through high school. All through high school I had a big problem with depression, a lot of self-esteem issues back then. It was very, 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 very sad time for me. And I was like, I'm not gonna be sad no more. I'm not living, I'm not this is not gonna be me. So that was the first thing I figured out that changed my life, and it still sticks with me to this day. The second thing I figured out when I was 19 is time management. I started really thinking about time and how much time people waste. And I looked at my fellow classmates and I was like, wait a minute, there's 168 hours in a week. And I started doing the math. I started calculating, okay, if I sleep like 8 hours a night, then I still have 112 hours left. If I go to class for 15 hours, I got 97 hours. So I could work 40 hours a week and still have 57 hours a week to study. Like literally, that was my logic. And I was like, oh, so it should be easy to make straight A's. I just have to pay attention now. Listen to this. This is important. A consciousness exercise. I give you guys that warning when we're going into a consciousness exercise. Um, I said, okay, so if I work as hard for myself as I do for that job I have at Taco Bell, then I can be a straight A student, right? Because I thought about this and I said, I looked around, I remember thinking, nobody wants to study. If you've ever been on a college campus, you guys know I've been a college professor for a long time, and college students don't study that hard. There's a lot that happens in college campuses that ain't got nothing to do with learning, ain't got nothing to do with getting smarter. It doesn't mean college is all bad. I'm not one of those people either. I don't think college is just a horrible waste of time for everyone. But it is a waste of time for some people because they don't do nothing. They think that just being on the campus for 4 years is going to make you somehow magically smart, and that's simply not true, right? And so give me a yes if you've noticed that. If you've noticed that college is this crazy place where a lot of stuff happens that has nothing to do with money, it's kind of crazy. So anyway, so where was I with that? So yeah, so here's what I figured out, right? I remember thinking, I said, okay, um, it's kind of weird to me that I that we have a hard time studying for 2 or 3 hours, but when that white man at Taco Bell tells me to come in and work an 8 hour shift, I can do it with no problem. Do you understand? How is it that studying for 2 or 3 hours is torture, but if I got a job at McDonald's, tell me if you know somebody like this. Give me a yes if you can. I want you to use your imagination and think about not even your imagination. I want you to use your memory. Think about people you know who are like that. You may be like that, right? Who can? I'm talking about somebody who can't put an hour and a half or 2 hours into learning something or doing something for themselves, but they can. But if they have a job and that white man tells them to come to work and work a double shift, they will do it. If he says get there at 9 o'clock, they get there at 8:45. If he says stay an extra 2 hours, they stay an extra three. Right? They literally just very pay attention now. I had this hard conversation with one of my loved ones this week, and I said I don't understand. What I don't understand is I saw when you was working for white folks, and I saw you were very disciplined. You got up every morning, you were professionally dressed, you drove all the way across town for 45 minutes, you got there on time, you stayed there 7 hours straight, and you did exactly what they told you to do. But yet, when it comes to you and your business, when it comes to you and the stuff that matters to you, when it comes to you and your future, there's always an excuse. You'll put in 30, 45 minutes, then you go and you go kick it. You don't go smoke some weed or watch TV. You don't put the same energy. And think about this. You literally don't even put a fraction of the energy into your legacy as you put into his legacy. Now I get it. I said, look, if you're gonna be lazy, at least be consistent. If you're gonna be lazy all the time. Make a choice. Either you're lazy or you're not. So, but whatever you pick, do that all the time. I don't understand why you will work extremely hard and be extremely disciplined when it comes to building his legacy and stuff wealth for his family. But when it comes to building wealth for your family, you don't have the time. You fit it in when you can. You do a little bit and then you take 3 days off. But I just don't get it. I don't get it. What makes him so much more important than you? It sounds to me like you enjoy being a slave. That's a slave mentality. Seriously, and I remember thinking this in college. I said, why in the hell am I going to work harder for Taco Bell than I'm going to work for my own future? Why is it that? So I was like, if I could sit there and be disciplined for 8 hours serving tacos, then I could sit here and be disciplined for at least 4 hours for my own damn future. That to me, that's not something that you come up with because you want to be a nerd or a scholar or an extremist. That's called common sense. That is called self-esteem. That's it. And from that moment on, I remember I promised myself, I said, I'm never going to work harder for the man than I'm going to work for myself. No, he's not the man. I'm the man. Do you understand? When it comes to my life, I'm the man. So when people say I'm serving the man, well, I that's what I want you to do. When somebody says, well, you going to go work for the man or work for the woman, I want you to look in the mirror. Start there. How in the hell is his legacy, his family, his wealth, his institution more important than yours? And I told this person, it's a real relative of mine. I hope she doesn't hear this conversation. But I said part of the reason that you work 10 times harder for him than you work for yourself is because you don't respect your boss. That's what it is. When you work for yourself, you don't respect your boss. You see yourself as a subordinate to him in terms of importance. So you can go and work for his business, his institution, and it's like, of course I am. This is important. This is an established organization. And I said, all these companies started off from nothing. Most of these companies that you work for, that you admire so much, I know the history of these countries. I know where the bodies are buried. I know the secrets. I know how they started. They started raggedy. Most of them started off much more raggedy than any business that any of you have in here right now. But for some reason, you see them up here and then you see yourselves down here. And I think that comes from slavery. I really do. I think that we have to work out of that slave mentality. We are kind of built to serve. We love to serve. We love it when people come along and pat us on our heads and say, thank you, black people, for doing this for us. Without you, we'd be nothing. And we're like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. No, I'm not that guy. I want to be the guy where they say, "Dang, boys, you ain't do nothing for us." I'm be like, "Yeah, you didn't pay me right." Right? Boys, you're not being very helpful. You weren't very helpful in the election. Well, that's because y'all didn't make the right offer. If you make the right offer, I'll be very helpful. I'm like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Remember Joe Pesci in Goodfellas where he said, "F you, pay me," right? Like that time, he's like, look, like I got, and I think this is a good fundamental principle. What matters in my world is me and mine, me and my family. And when I talk about me and my family, me and my people, that's where it starts and that's where it finishes. And it doesn't mean I won't deal with other people. It does. I do not hate anybody else. I have to keep saying this a lot because I'm so pro black. People think I hate white people or that I'm afraid of them or that I'm mad at them. I don't have time to hate them, be afraid of them, or be mad at them. None of those things apply. It's just more like I'm just interested in this. I'm interested in this right here. I put on a stack of Bibles. Harvard University could call me tomorrow and offer me $1 million a year to teach for them every morning, to cancel this class and teach for them every morning, and I would have no problem saying no and hanging up the phone. I wouldn't even stutter when I say no, because this is where I need to be. Well, because why? Well, because what's more important in this world than you and your family? What's more important in this world than you and your people? Well, and this is kind of the backward logic I think that we get when it comes to our economics. We are just really built and determined to serve others, and I think that that's noble of you. But every time they have anybody ever notice, give me a yes if you notice this. Anybody ever notice how like whenever they have like some kind of like Black History celebration or whatever, they'll always talk about all the contributions Black people made to everyone other than ourselves. Anybody ever notice that how they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, Black people were the first to die in the war, but they didn't get nothing from it. Black people were the first ones to invent this, but they didn't get credit for it. Black people were the ones who served our children, but we didn't pay them for it." Right? They're always like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I'm like, I don't want more of a thank you. Like, I need to go and figure out why we keep giving stuff away for free, because that's how we end up broke. That's how you end up with everything and we end up with nothing. So remember that when you're talking about investing in other communities, you're not just investing your money. You're also investing labor, time, skill, expertise, and you're giving them your attention. When you're giving even attention is a commodity. That which I pay attention to is that which I manifest in my life. That which I give my psychological energy to is that which becomes real. So because I give my attention and my psychological energy to institutions that are owned by people outside of my community, their institutions become real. Our institutions do not. Do you understand? Our institutions get forgotten and neglected. Things that you forget, things that you don't spend time on, things that you don't put time into, those things die. Just like children, if you have one child and you pour into that child and you love that child and you nurture that child and you feed that child and you teach that child, and then you have another child that you neglect, ignore, don't pay attention to, what do you think is going to happen to those kids? It's going to be a very different outcome between those two children. So your economic children have to be the most important children in your life. You cannot be an economic babysitter. An economic babysitter is a person that pours their economic energy and economic attention into institutions that don't belong to them. I know that you're proud that they made you the senior manager at the Burger King. I know that you're proud because you feel good. You say, "Mama, I made it," because you are one of the most important people in the law firm. I know that you love the fact that you got this job as a senior manager at Google, and that's really important for you. And I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. But also, I want to figure out what has to occur for something to be poured into your legacy. It doesn't always have to show up in the form of entrepreneurship. It does not always have to show up in the form of you being a business owner. It does not always have to show up in the form of you running a company. I need you to understand that right now. So just give me a yes. Let's consciousness exercise. Give me a yes if you understand that I'm saying that I'm not saying that everybody has to be a business owner. Everybody has to be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying everybody quit their job and go start a company immediately. I am not saying that at all. Please let me know that you get this. I need y'all to understand this, because a lot of people, that's another misinterpretation, is people think that I'm telling everybody to start their own business. No, I'm not. I'm saying somebody's got to start businesses. Somebody's got to go build these institutions. But really, pouring into your legacy, all that really means is that you own something that's actually yours and something that's going to be passed on to the next generation. So I need you to look and do an inventory of your life. And I need you to say, okay, what are the things in my life that I'm pouring into every day that if I die tomorrow are going to go to my children or go to somebody I love? Like, what are the things that I'm putting energy and time into right now that are going to benefit the people that I care about, even when I'm gone? right? And if there's nothing, then that means you have to shift your energy a little bit, right? Because work is not something that's supposed to be permanent. Working for other people is supposed to be temporary. Renting is supposed to be temporary. Renting is supposed to graduate into ownership. People talk about graduation, like graduating from college, graduating from high school. They think of graduation as like taking a bunch of classes and getting a piece of paper. No, to me, graduation is when you go from little boy economics to big boy economics. When you go from childish games to mature games, when you go from economic immaturity to economic maturity. Economic immaturity is where you're renting things, you're a massive consumer, and you're working for other people, and you're doing that for many, many years. That's an economic immaturity thing that should be a stepping stone to economic maturity. Economic maturity is when you are finally owning assets. It's when you're finally in a position where you are part of some group that is producing things. Economic maturity means you go from renter to owner, right? And what happens is that our economic growth gets stunted because what happens, we get to that economic purgatory of being the renter and being the consumer and being the borrower and being the spender and everything else. And we just stay there. We stay there generation after generation after generation. Nobody graduates. Everybody gets up to the ninth grade and then they stop going to school, right? And what I'm saying to you is, I need you to economically graduate. So that means because here's what's beautiful about it. Once you economically graduate and you have something that is yours, something that you can pass on to the children, I'm talking to everybody in here that's a parent, grandparent, great uncle, mentor, whatever. Once you graduate and you acquire something that's yours and that you can pass on, then that means that the people behind you don't have to do as much work. The people behind you are already starting the game at a higher level than you started, and so they're able to kind of go to another level. You understand? So things you can pass on might be things like shares of stock. I hope that give me a yes. Please give me a yes in the chat if you're investing on some level right now, and if you're investing consistently. And in case you're wondering, I am going to ask this question a lot. I do this litmus test all the time. I need how many of you are investing on some regular basis? Please, everybody, I need everybody to give me a yes. This is literally my requirement for being here. I need you to be able to say yes to this, okay? And you don't have to invest everything. If the answer is no, that's okay. Don't be scared. Just get started. Go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's the $5 a day plan, blackwealthmasterplan.com, or you can text the word stock to 87948. There's free lessons and stuff like that that can get you started from the Black Business School. I need everybody to be an investor. We are invading the territory. We are at war right now. We are mobilizing the army for the next generation, and we are going to win this freaking battle. So I need everybody to give me yeses. All right, so let's go. Let's make this happen. All right, so you can pass down shares of stock. You can pass down real estate. You can pass down other kinds of assets that you may own. Of course, a business, things like that can be passed on. Ownership in a business can be passed on. It doesn't have to necessarily be a business that you run. Dr. Claude Anderson says all the time that he was golfing with some Jewish guys who told him that they don't want to own an entire business. They want to own 10% of 10 businesses, because if you have a 10% stake in 10 different businesses, then that gives you 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 times 10 is 100, right? So if you add 10 up 10 times, you get 100, right? So basically, that gives you the same effect of owning an entire business without having to do the work, because somebody else is doing the work, because you're in all those businesses, you're a minority partner. So it's not about running things. It's really about owning things. You don't always have to be the person who is managing the business in order to be the owner of the business. And you've probably seen this. Many of you have probably been in situations where you ran a business for the owner, and you were doing a lot of the work because the owner provided the capital. So I just want you to make sure that you know the difference between the two. Now, one thing I want to share with you all is this Friday in the Black Business School, we have a guest lecturer that's going to do, not a guest lecturer, he's actually joining our faculty. His name is Michael Edwards, and he's an expert on Forex. So a lot of you have shown an interest in Forex trading. I am not an expert in Forex, so that's why we brought in a partner, Michael Edwards, to do this. The event is free. It's going to be this Friday. What I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to put this link so you can join and participate. And if you don't see the link, just text the word money to 87948, and I'll send you out the link this week so you can join us on Friday. So there's the link right there. So feel free to join us for that event on Friday night. Michael Edwards is his name. He's the guy that can teach you about this stuff if you have an interest in Forex. A lot of you have been asking about it, so we created that in the Black Business School. So let me see here. Now, one of the things I want to hit on really quickly is I want to talk about preparing our children for the game of economics, preparing them for the game of wealth. This really is a game, in my opinion. This is really something that is it's rigged. It's definitely rigged. So if anybody ever says, well, the stock market and all that's rigged, right? I want you to say absolutely, and it's going to be rigged in my favor because I've got somebody who's an expert on the stock market named Dr. Boyce Watkins, who's going to make sure that I understand the rules of the game and I rig it in my favor. So yes, it is absolutely rigged. And but I understand the rules of that game. I wrote my whole dissertation on the stock market, so I spent thousands of hours analyzing data, studying theories, learning every level of complex mathematics behind stock markets and investing that you can ever imagine. And what's really beautiful about it is that America has some of the most efficient stock markets in the world. I know America is a crappy country in certain ways. Like, for example, I don't understand why we have a border that's like wide open and all these people are just walking in and think it's going to be bad. But some areas where we get it right is in areas that relate to money. And so with the stock market, you've got this big, beautiful machine that allows you to do little things like the thing I showed with my son, where I showed him, I was like, yeah, I can, let me show you how I can make money without working, how I make more money than most people make going to work. And it's because I've been saving my money and I have a capital base and I can just sell these options. And I showed him, like I pulled up $10,000 like right there. And I was like, yeah, I can do this every week. It's, and so, the average pay of a surgeon is $434,000 a year, right? And what is $10,000 a week times 52? He said about 520,000. I said, yeah, I make more money than a surgeon without doing anything. I don't have to go to medical school for 12 years. I don't have to work 14-hour shifts. I don't have to do any of that. So if you want to give your child a gift that will last for a lifetime, do that $5, $10 a day investing plan and give them a capital base and then teach them little things like selling stock options or whatever it is that they want to do, real estate, all that stuff. That's where the real money gets made. That's how you get to the next level. Now, Josephine says, I'm in Black Money 101 and at the level to learn how to invest in the stock market. Good, good, good. Yeah, blackmoney101.com is a great place for you to go if you want to get started as well. This money stuff is not something for you to be intimidated by. And the reason I encourage you to not be intimidated by money is because it's kind of awkward. Think about how awkward that is to be intimidated by something that you're going to be dealing with every single day of your life. Like, give me a yes or no if you agree with me that money is in the top three in terms of the things we think about almost a daily basis. Give me a yes. Consciousness exercise, financial consciousness exercise here. How many of you would agree that money is literally in the top one, two, or three things that you think about every single day? And y'all know what one of the other things might be. Depends on how young you are, right? Right. So you got money and you got some of the other stuff, right? And I would say for a lot of you, money would be number one. Money is something you think about every day. It's something you confront every day. It's something that can make the difference between having a good day and a bad day, a good life and a bad life, stress versus success. All right. I mean, if money is that important, to me, it's again another common sense thing. Why wouldn't you want to learn as much about it as you possibly can? It just it's like it's to desire money and to need money as much as we need money and to not know anything about money. It's like having somebody move into your house and that's your roommate and you don't even check their background. You don't know anything about that person that's in your house. Why would you move someone? Why would you have a roommate that you know nothing about? I mean, that's crazy. That doesn't even make any sense. That's highly illogical. But this is the effect of brainwashing. This is the effect of bad culture. This is what bad culture does. I wrote, in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Feel free to grab a copy at drboycebooks.com. In that book, I talk all the time about how bad culture keeps us stuck on stupid sometimes. Not saying you're stupid. I think you're smart. That's why I'm talking to you, and that's why I respect you. But really, let's process this. How crazy do you got to be convinced that the thing that's going to matter the most in your life is the thing you should spend the least time learning about? And then you just end up messed up. I mean, you end up in these horrible, crazy situations that were preventable if somebody had just sat down and had a simple economic conversation with you. I guarantee you, I didn't get some of you that are bringing your kids to class or whatever the case, which you should. I mean, with one membership to any of our classes, you can bring the whole family. You're giving your child about 1,000 times more than I got when I was growing up. I didn't get a whole lot in terms of understanding. I didn't know nothing about stock market investing. I didn't know nothing about owning businesses. I thought they were all just run by these magical white people who gave us jobs. I didn't even think much about real estate. I didn't, I remember my parents bought the first house, and I kind of had an idea that owning a house was kind of important, but nobody really told me that it was really important. What I was told was important was going to school, making good grades so you can get a good job. That was what I was told to be was important, and as a result, I was given a pretty strong work ethic because of that. Because I saw my parents get up and go to work every day, and I also saw them have upward mobility because the jobs were good and or getting better every at every stage of the way, and also my parents have financial responsibility. They even to this day they're both in retirement, and I buy them whatever they want, but they don't need my help. Their pensions are solid. Their estate plan's solid. Their income levels are as high as they were when they were working because they spent 20, 30 years going to work every day preparing for retirement. Right. And now they're prepared. And that's one thing. That's why I'm really big on screaming and hollering about like black people. Why aren't we prepared? The future's coming. We're in trouble. We got to get ready. I'm like that. I get that from my parents. My wonderful therapist helped me understand that that my opinions in the world are heavily informed by how I grew up and what I saw growing up. Right. So that's just a little revelation she gave me. Everybody should have a therapist. It'll give you great insights into who you are. So anyway, so with that said though, one thing that was missing was we didn't have any conversations about wealth and ownership and economic power and all that. I mean, the most I got was like watching my grandma and how financially efficient she was. Like she didn't depend on anybody, but she didn't own stock. I didn't know the rules of rich people. I didn't. And I started learning those when I went to college and I was studying finance and I was the best student. So I knew it at a high level, but because the culture is your first teacher. See, the culture sinks into your pores, it sinks into your DNA. So the culture, which was bad economic culture, or not so bad, right? I learned how to work hard. I learned how to go to school, get a good job. So it wasn't all terrible, but there was nothing there about investing or economic power. It was like, okay, that's for rich people, that's for white people, that's for the people across town. That's what message I got. So because the culture was so strong, the culture overrode the education. So what I was learning consciously by reading books every day and studying every day, I just explained to you all, I was a grinder. I mean, I was studying 5, 6 hours a day, and I was reading all this stuff, but it wasn't really sinking in because it's like, oh, well, this stock options and stock market, that's what rich white people do. I wasn't white and I wasn't rich, so it didn't really make sense to me. And it wasn't until I began to really reassess who I was and really rebuild myself that I began to see it in a certain way. So here's what I'm saying to you is that if you're bringing your kids or your grandkids or your nieces, nephews, which I think this is better than the public school system. There's no public school anywhere that's going to give your kids an economic training like we give you here. Like I just know this for a fact. What you're doing is you're giving them just such a natural superpower. Like they're gonna walk away. I say this, and this is where I get a little bit cocky because I know my stuff, right? Um, uh, 10 conversations with me in a space like this will put them ahead of 98% of all college educated adults when it comes to their understanding of economics. And I'm not playing, I'm not kidding. This is 100% true. I say this after teaching at Syracuse University for 13 years. I taught at Ohio State, all that stuff. I can tell you, you do that. And so here's what you're doing. What you're doing is you are just doing them an amazing favor. You're helping them to avoid a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, a lot of stress that's going to occur if they get to the battle and they're unprepared. Because economics really is warfare. I talked to you guys about this recently, where I think let me know if we talked about this yesterday. I know I was thinking about it yesterday. I don't know if I brought it up in class or not, but there was a guy who was basically saying that we don't need billionaires, right? I think we might have mentioned this. If so, I'll mention it very very briefly. But there's a guy who basically said we don't need billionaires, and he said that billionaires, and they said, well, why? He said because it doesn't make any sense that all these people have all this money, and there are starving people everywhere, and there's homeless people everywhere, and all these people are really struggling everywhere, and you got these billionaires, right? And they said, well, isn't that class warfare, sir? Aren't you starting class warfare? And he said, well, class warfare has been going on for 50 years. Okay, thank you for letting me know that I was bringing that up. Okay, but here's the thing, right? So first of all, I'm probably not as extreme as him, right? I don't care if billionaires have money, but I do care about the fact that we do have poor people and starving people, and I don't like that. I don't like seeing people that are starving when you've got these people that have enough money where they could fix the problem overnight. That's crazy, right? But one of the things that he did mention about class warfare is that there's always been a war on working class and poor people. And so your children are arriving to a war. They're being suited up to go onto an economic battlefield, and soldiers need to be trained. Am I right? Soldiers need to be prepared. A good soldier, one that's really ready to fight, is going to he's going to get briefed on the battle terrain. He's going to get a battle plan. They're going to tell him like, well, what to do. He's going to get trained for a while. You don't put soldiers in the battlefield when they're not ready. Or am I right? Or am I right? right? So these little black babies that you're raising are going into an economic battle where there's going to be somebody that's going to try to purchase them. There's going to be someone that's going to try to purchase their freedom, someone that's going to try to purchase their access to happiness. There's someone that's going to purchase their time. They're going to try to purchase their labor. They're going to try to purchase their life. And it gets worse in every generation. Student loan debt at an all-time high, credit card debts at an all-time high, auto loan debts at an all-time high, and debt is one of the economic prisons that's designed to control consumers and to get them to do what corporations want them to do. Debt is a prison. I just talked to my buddy yesterday, D1. D1 is a rapper who he was on the Breakfast Club this week, and I just love this guy. I've been, he's been my buddy for many years. And I love him because he's changing the world. He's actually using the talent of hip hop for its intended purpose. God intended for us to use rap to elevate ourselves, not to destroy ourselves. And D1 is on the front lines of that battle. And that's why I love him. So I explained to him yesterday, I said, debt is a prison. I said, people are incarcerated. Well, why? How does that work? Well, if I have you in so much debt and then I force you to pay that debt, then you have to come work for the corporation. So then the corporation doesn't have to increase wages or anything because you don't have a choice. The biggest problem they had during the pandemic was that people didn't want to go to work anymore. They got a taste of freedom. It was like letting the inmates out of the cell for a little while, and they were like, "Hey, I don't think I want to go back to jail." And they were like, "How do we pull them back into jail?" Well, debt is one of those things. That's why a lot of rich people and corporations, they wanted student loan debt to get restarted. They wanted the payments to start back up so it will force people to come to work. Right. And so I said to him, I said, two things you have going on in our society is that people are drowning because the expenses are up here and their wages are not going up. But you have inflation every single year. Inflation is pushing up the cost of living, but wages are not going up. So people are drowning financially. A lot of people are. And then also people are incarcerated. So imagine a person that is drowning in a jail cell. That's the imagery that I get in my head when I think about what's happening in America financially. So a couple of things I want to teach you or help you understand or impress upon you is the importance of number one, you got to learn how to swim, right? That's important. You got to keep your head above water. And then number two, you got to get out of jail. Or you got to stay out of jail. Best way to get out of jail is to stay out of jail. Because once you go to jail, you know how the system works. Once they get you in the system, you're kind of stuck. So you stay out of the system. So keep your kids out of jail, teach them how to swim, and they're going to be economically successful. Do you follow me? Does that make sense? Give me a yes with that if you follow that analogy, that logic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually, since I actually have to get ready for our stock market portfolio power play, I'm going to go ahead and let us go a couple minutes early today. I was going to share slides again, but y'all know how I am. Sometimes, sometimes it's like, no, I got something to say. God told me to say this today, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. By the way, if you want to learn about our programs for kids, we have a whole Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program for children that consists of a digital program, workbooks specifically designed for our kids, and then also really great flashcards on everything from real estate to credit to everything else. Just text the word youth, YOUTH, youth to 87948. Text youth to 87948, and I'll send that to you. And also what I'm going to do is share the link if you want to join us for the portfolio power play, where we're going to talk about the stock market and what's happening in the world of investing. I'm going to share that with you guys since you guys came into class today, and I want to keep the conversation going. So I'm literally going to be doing this in a few minutes. So here is the link to join here. Okay, so if you will forgive me for us having to bounce out early, but it's actually good because y'all know how I am. Once I get going, I kind of keep going from topic to topic. If you want to see the the recordings of everything we've done, drboycedaily.com is the URL you can go to get access to every single training that we've done on this topic. And it doesn't cost that much, and it's something that you can have for life and all that good stuff. So feel free to go to drboycedaily.com as well. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this discussion was beneficial to you, and I want you to we got to get those babies ready and get them ready to fight. And this is not a game. We must be prepared if we're going to win. And I know that we can win. We've got everything we need. So God bless you. Have a great day.